Welcome everybody to uSTADIUM's uFantasy Sunday Live. There's a game going on right now. The New York Jets versus the Falcons. Unfortunately, the Falcons are up 20-3. Chris, that's Stefan Bombs. How is it going, Stefan? You doing good, buddy?
Doing good. It's a little early morning start for us because it's 9:30 game, but
Yeah.
overall doing pretty good.
Right on, man. Right on. We're going to get into starts and sits for you today, DFS questions, a live chat, live Q&A as we go forward. Before we get into anything, like the video, subscribe to the page, hit the little bell so you'll get the alerts of every other show that uSTADIUM's pumping out content, from Jets Talk to Dolphins Talk to betting shows, university show with Zach. We're growing and we're big. So let's get going into the lives. Also, we do have a special guest coming up for you guys somewhere near the middle of the show. Eric Young from Impact Wrestling and the FTN Fantasy Network is going to be joining us sometime in the show. But before we get there, we want to hit you guys hard with some of the start sits right away. First things first, we're going to be talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars, not the mess that is happening in Jacksonville, but two wide receivers that we want to start against the Tennessee Titans. I'm going to start off by starting Laviska Shenault today. And DJ Sharks' unfortunate fracture in his absent last week. Shenault actually had his best game in fantasy. He got 17 points off 7 targets. The wide receivers versus the Titans this week have absolutely eaten. Lockett went off for over $1. Corey Davis had his bounce back game last year that we called. He went off for over $1. Now the mess that is the Jacksonville Jaguars should grind it out versus the Tennessee Titans in a division game. And Laviska Shenault is going to be a focal point for Trevor Lawrence. My week 5 projections: 7 receptions, 80 yards, and a tutty.
Wow, that's receiver 2 numbers.
Yeah, buddy. So, Stefan, who's the other wide receiver that you're going to talk about in that offense?
It's going to be, honestly, Marvin Jones. He's been nothing but consistent. He did have his first down game of the season last week. Of course, he had 3 catches on 3 targets for 24 yards. But if you look at his passing numbers, he's had 6 catches, 5 catches. So he's consistent. And now, like you said, Chark on the IR. It just happens to be Trevor Lawrence's 2 best friends are Marvin Jones and Shenault, a quick guy, and also Jones is more of a deeper threat as well. He's still got some gas left in his tank, so it's gonna be not the prettiest. But if you're gonna own these 2 guys, they're the only ones I want on that team outside of James Robinson.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm comfortable starting both. I'm gonna throw one at you. If you had to start Shenault or Marvin Jones this week, if you had to pick one of them, what is the one that you're firing up?
As much as I love Marvin Jones, I got to go with Shenault. He just seems to be like the gadget guy, the guy who lines up on the slot, the guy who lines up out deep. He can even rush the ball a few times. He had a few rushes last year. Shenault just seems like the one that's going to click more with Trevor Lawrence. Like I said, Marvin Jones is more like his safety valve where like he needs a deep ball or even something little. But I agree with you. Shenault's going to have at least 7 catches. I'll put him over 80 yards and I'll give him a touchdown. Someone's going to catch passes because Chark, he left around 50, 60 catches out there for someone to get. I think Shenault gets at least 50% of those.
Now, do you think the Jacksonville Jaguars show up with all the controversy? Do you think that's a thing that's going to kind of bond the locker room as they separate from their coach? I'm expecting some big things out of the Jaguars just based on who they're facing. I'm playing the matchup over the situation in the locker room. Do you think that kind of stuff has an effect on the output of players of like, because last year you had the situation where the Detroit Lions kind of quit on their coach and stopped playing. So do you think that's going to kind of happen with the Jacksonville Jaguars here?
See, I want to go down the hole and say yes. Urban Meyer looked bad. They're 0-4, but it is a divisional game. It's an AFC South matchup. It's going to be a slobber knocker. I think it's going to at least be within the realm of 10 points. I think the Jaguars do come out. They do have something to prove with or without Urban Meyer. I think they want to be like, listen, he doesn't dictate how we go. We're going to sit there and come back next week and we're going to punch the Titans in the mouth. I could be wrong. They could come out and flatline, but I don't think a team in the NFL that's got this many professionals is just willing to roll over and just call it a day. So I think they go out there, they have a good game. I do still think the Titans squeak out the win just because they're slightly better on paper and just skill-wise, but Otherwise, I think they come out with some kind of like 1-2 punch, you know?
Yep, I like it. First question of the day from Doom Sports. James Robinson over Swift in standard. In standard, I'm going to pick James Robinson here. If it was a PPR, I maybe lean towards Swift just based on the receptions that he gets. Are you in the same boat with that one?
I've honestly, yeah, James Robinson has been one of my favorite backs for the last 2 years. You know, he just looks good. He's produced good. Swift is still sharing that role with Jamal Williams. It's kind of annoying fantasy owners. They've got almost a 50-50 split. I would just go with James Robinson for volume and just production. Like, he's just been that guy. He's been the RB2 all season. If you had to go with anything, James Robinson. But if you could put Swift as a flex over like a mediocre receiver, then I would do that though.
Yep. Yeah, that's good advice. I like that. Let's move on to a couple of sits that we're going to talk about. One of the bigger ones for me coming into the week is tight end out of Baltimore, Mark Andrews versus the Indianapolis Colts. You drafted this guy high to not have to sit him. He should be a plug-and-play guy, but tight ends versus the Colts are averaging 7 fantasy points per game, about half a TD and 41 receiving yards. Last week, Gesicki, even with the high volume in the passing game, was saved by the TD. If he didn't get the TD, he was pretty much non-existent. Some of the red flags with Mark Andrews this year, he has only seen 3 red zone targets going into week 5. So he's averaging less than 1 red zone target, the money zone, for fantasy purposes per game. It's a matchup-based sit for me. Guys, I would feel comfortable starting over Mark Andrews this week. Dalton Schultz, who's had a great connection with Dak Prescott, and Mike Gesicki. I think they're both going to have better days than Mark Andrews. Again, it's just a sit based on the matchup. My week 5 projection for Mark Andrews, 4 receptions, 50 yards, and half a TD. Following my Baltimore sit, Stefan, you got another big sit here out of Pittsburgh, one of the 3 big wide receivers. Who do you got? Who is it? And tell us why we're sitting him.
It's Juju Smith-Schuster. Listen, I know he's 24 years old. He's still young. He's still got a lot of everything's left in the tank for this guy. But it's just that offense outside of Najee Harris and Deontay Johnson, it's looking ugly. I mean, the first game he had four catches and 8 targets, which was good. Then 6 catches and 7 targets, and then it went to 3 to 4, and he had 2 catches, 8 targets last game. I don't know if Big Ben and him aren't just on the same page anymore. It just seems like the whole offense is sputtering if your name's not Deontay Johnson. So with that being said, that's the only receiver, and of course Najee Harris is the only running back on that team I'm starting. I just don't trust it. Yeah. If he does good this week, if they get that rapport back, maybe I'll consider flexing him next week, but it just didn't look pretty. I mean, he's had 2 games where he had not even a combined points of 10. So if you can find a better receiver, and there's a bunch of receivers out there who can get you a floor of 10, I'm okay with sitting Juju this week. I just hope that he gets it back because he's a great receiver, and it's sad to see someone this young be this depleted as a fantasy receiver and as an overall receiver as well.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with the play of Ben Roethlisberger. When I was watching the game last week, there was a bunch of throws that should have been easy for him to make where Juju was just wide open and he just missed them. You either overthrew him or he was late on the throw. So I think it has a lot to do with the situation at quarterback, the new offense that Matt Canada's running, and the fact that there is 2 other wide receivers that are also eating up the targets, like you said. Let's get to a question here from Nick Hobie. Cole Beasley or Joe Mixon, concerned about the limited snaps with Joe Mixon. Do you have a take that you're taking on here between the 2, Stefan?
Actually, yeah. So I was gonna say this for later, but I'm gonna shoot at it now because I see the question. Honestly, Cole Beasley, whenever I see someone that's been hurt and will play, it just means I feel like they're gonna get maybe 5 carries. I'm okay with. I have Joe Mixon in a lot of leagues. I'm okay with benching him just because of the concern of the injury. He might get you 1 snap and then not play the rest of the game. It's like what David Johnson happened a few years ago with Chase Edmonds against the Giants. Oh, David Johnson's healthy. He's healthy. He played 1 snap. Edmonds gets to like 150 yards rushing, 20 carries, and David Johnson's nowhere to be found. He's sitting in your lineup at the RB1 with a goose egg. So I'm okay with Joe Mixon being sat this week. I do believe it's a committee in that backfield, regardless if he plays or not this week. Next week, put him back in your RB2. He should be 2 weeks removed from a minor injury. Go Cole Beasley. That offense is going to eat today, I think.
With that Joe Mixon information, could a guy like Samaje Perine be a guy that might be one of the sleeper starts or a DFS start because you're going to get him a little bit cheaper? Is that a guy that you would feel comfortable starting in your lineups?
Now, I'm going to get some kind of head turns. I do like Perine, but I do like Chris Evans more.
Evans, yeah, okay.
I like that third down package, that passing. I think for DFS stack, he's going to be dirt cheap to the point where you can get him. If you want him RB2, you want him like a flex position. I think he gets the passing downs. I do believe it's a shootout against the Green Bay Packers. But if you had to choose one, I'm going to go with the bold prediction on this one, Chris Evans over Samaje Perine.
I like it, man. We got another question here from Vade134. Thanks for tuning in. RB2 and flex, Chase Edmonds, Antonio Gibson, James Robinson, and Kareem Hunt. A couple good options here. So I guess we're picking 2 out of the 4. I don't like what I've been reading about Antonio Gibson this week with
that shin injury.
The shin injury, man. It scares me for a guy that's a runner. So I think in this matchup, out of the 4, I'm good with starting James Robinson and Chase Edmonds. I like what Edmonds kind of brings to the table. He is a PPR machine. That's where he's going to get most of his points. Unfortunately, he does have James Conner siphoning those red zone goal line carries, so he can be maybe a little bit TD dependent based on his usage. But I think I'm going to give. It's hard not to start Antonio Gibson, man. It's really hard not to start. But I think the 2 out of the 4, I'm going Robinson and Edmonds. What do you think, Stefan?
I'm going to piggyback what you said, the Gibson one. That shin injury does scare me a little bit. If you have a better option, like I said, bench him. If I would to do this, it's James Robinson's number 1 and Kareem Hunt's number 2.
Yeah, you like Kareem?
Chase Edmonds, like you said, the whole vulture and the James Conner thing. I just believe that Conner still was playing a big role, and Edmonds continues, at least for this week, his streak of good consecutive rushes, but no touchdown. So James Robinson goes to your RB2. Kareem Hunt's a great flex. He's basically down the middle with Chubb. He's the passing back over Chubb. So if they're down big, expect to see Kareem Hunt in over Chubb when it comes to just a game script. So I'd go James Robinson, Kareem Hunt all the way.
I like it. I don't think you can go wrong with Edmonds or Hunt, but yeah, I like the Robinson.
It's a good problem to have too.
Yeah, he's definitely rich at the position. Definitely rich at the position. You got another question here from Kashif Mustafa. Thanks for tuning in. Should I start Jalen Hurts or Aaron Rodgers? Oh man, they've both been pretty good, other than Rodgers' first game where he was a dud with the Saints, but and Hurts has been pretty decent, saved by some garbage time games, but his mobility is a big factor into his production. I'm gonna go with the talent here and pick Aaron Rodgers over Jalen Hurts.
I like that. I'm going to piggyback that again too. The matchup looks too favorable for Aaron Rodgers. The Cincinnati defense, DB-wise, aren't really 100%. I do see that being a shootout of a game. Hurts is not bad, but Carolina defense is stingy, and I think coming off that loss against the Dallas Cowboys last week, it's going to be one of those games where you're just like, you know what, Hurts might have a good game, but I think Rodgers just has 5 to 10 more points than Hurts at the end of the day.
Is CJ Henderson playing? And Gilmore's next week, I think.
Gilmore's next week. I believe Henderson's going to play this week.
Yeah, okay.
Even honestly, like if they didn't have him, that defense has been looking good. And I think after that last week embarrassment loss against the Cowboys, which that defense doesn't give them many points this year, and that kind of sounds funny to say it. I think Carolina kind of calms down Hurts and Rodgers, like I said, just a little bit more.
I like it. And the Green Bay game has has potential to be a shootout. So
exactly, that's why I'm loving it.
Another question here from Lou DDD. Thanks for tuning in, Lou. Don't forget, like the stream, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell to get your notifications as we go. His question is Trey Lance or Taylor Heineke. I'm gonna go Trey Lance over Heineke this week. I don't like the matchup for Taylor in New Orleans, so I'm starting Trey Lance here.
I love Trey Area. I mean, the guy
Trey Area.
Heineke's not bad. It's just the matchup says that this is going to be Lance, even without Kittle. I think Samuel, they're going to eat. It's just going to be one of those good games to watch. It's Kyler Murray versus Trey Lance, so it's going to be one of those explosive
shootout
running.
games.
Yeah, dual
Yeah.
running back quarter, like dual running quarterbacks, and I think
Yeah.
it's gonna be a lot of air yards. So
Yeah. I
Lance
think
over Heineke this week.
yeah, exactly. And again, it's that rushing ability in fantasy that you want the rushing quarterbacks. Taylor, he can run. He does have the ability to break off a couple runs. But man, Trey Lance is just it's in his blood, man. It's what he does.
Exactly.
And he can bomb it down the field. I like Trey Lance over Taylor Heineke. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for the question. Doom Sports here, wide receiver 2 and flex. Trey Sermon, Rondell Moore, Brandon Ayuk, Darnell Mooney, or Jalen Waddle. It lost Ridley, and I'm thin at receiver because of it. We're sorry to hear that. I mean, Calvin Ridley missing this week was unfortunate. Thankfully, it wasn't a severe injury, but we hope all is good in the Ridley camp. But I'm picking a wide receiver 2 and a flex out of these. I think I'm going Darnell Mooney and ooh, man, the options here. Darnell Mooney. Oh, and Rondell Moore, I think I'm going to go.
I think I'm gonna go with Mooney, but I think because we got the injury news on Devontae Parker, Jalen Waddle as well, because Fuller's not there now, Parker's not there. If I had to rank them, Mooney's going first, Waddle's going second. Mooney's your right receiver 2, and then Waddle flexing it. I don't trust Rondell Moore and Sermon just yet. They're still kind of iffy guys, but those who I'd go with if I could.
Yep, I like it. I think my video's frozen, but can you still hear me?
Oh yeah, you're still loud and clear.
All right, sounds good. We can move on. Hopefully my technical issues clear up here. I'm not too sure why my video is frozen. I wish it would have frozen better pose, but I can't help that. So let's move forward here. Let's talk about our next couple starts. I'm starting quarterback Mac Jones of the New England Patriots versus the Houston Texans. I think it's going to be a positive. It's a plus matchup for them. The Texans this season, in terms of fantasy production, have been giving up an average of 24.5 fantasy points per game. The guy is due for a breakout game. This is the game where he is going to be able to do it. He is 6th in passing attempts, 6th in air yards. He has a great offensive line that'll help him versus the Texans defense, who are in the bottom quarter of league sacks. They only got 7. Even if the pressure gets to Mac, he is 4th in the league in completion percentage under pressure. This is it. If you are streaming, you're in a 2QB or super flex league, this is the game where you want to start Mac. My week 5 projections, 280 for 3 TDs.
I like it. I'm waiting for Mac Jones to fling that rock and just show us what he can do. So it's hopefully Texas are really giving, and Belichick's good against the rookie quarterback. So
yeah, that's also true. I mean, I think anybody's going to be good against Davis Mills at this point, Stephen, buddy. I think that's just going to be the case moving forward. If you're streaming defenses and you want to look ahead to see who Houston is playing, go pick up those defenses now, because the guy, I think he's averaging like 3 interceptions a game. One of your starts is a guy who's going to have ample opportunity due to injury. So tell us about why you are starting Damien Williams, sir.
So outside of taking off last year, his 2019, Damien Williams had 5 games. I think the last 5 games was over 20 points every game when he was on that Chiefs offense. He was the running back 1. He was putting up numbers that no one thought he could because, the whole Miami days. But this guy seems to be the filler role. He's in an offense that lost Montgomery for 5 weeks. So for the next 5 weeks, I'm personally starting Damien Williams. It's just volume. He's a pass catching back. He looked good last week. He had a little thigh injury, but he came with 15 carries, 80 yards. He's going to be the guy that you want for the next 5 weeks. It's going to carry you RB2 with all his slew of injuries. It's hard not to start him because there's no depth in the running back world anymore. So Damien Williams is my every week starter. I have him this week, at least 20 carries. I'm going to put him over 100 yards, and I think he does get a rushing touchdown this week. So if you have an RB2 position, if you pick them up this week in waivers, start him the next 5 weeks. I'm very heavy on Damien Williams.
I like it, buddy. It's great insight into that rushing game of the Chicago Bears. I mean, David Montgomery is unfortunate. He was putting up good numbers, so hopefully Damian Williams can follow through with that. With that, we're very excited to bring on our first ever guest onto uSTADIUM Fantasy Live. It's FTN Fantasy family member, Impact Wrestling two-time world champion, WWE NXT Tag Team Champion. He held multiple titles in TNA. He's an Ontarian like myself, the world-class maniac, the big game hunter, the merchant of mayhem, Showtime himself, Eric Young. Eric, happy Thanksgiving, my man.
Yeah, happy Canadian Thanksgiving to you. Down here in the States. Hasn't happened for us yet, but yeah, it's good to be chatting football with you guys. What a great day. Football is underway already, and I will return to my position on the couch for the remainder of the day, and that's exactly how I was supposed to be on Sunday.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. You're big into fantasy sports, fantasy football, fantasy hockey as well. Is there a guy this week that you're looking to maybe say you're 0-4, 1-3, and you want to make a run to try to make a playoff spot? Is there a guy that you're injecting into your lineups this week to kind of help you to get there, to get the win?
Yeah, I mean, I got a couple. I mean, for me, and it pains me to say this, but Trevor Lawrence is a guy that maybe if you're streaming, he could be available. People may have given up on him. He may be out there. Or he's a guy that you've been holding on your bench. If there's ever a week to start him, it's tonight today against the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans are my team. I was a Tennessee Titans fan before I moved to Nashville. I was a Buffalo Bills fan. They made me cry 3 years in a row. I stopped watching football. And when I went back to football, I said I'm picking a new team. Fell in love with Steve McNair and Eddie George, and Frank Wycheck, and Derek Mason, and John Kirst, and all these cool players. And then in a weird turn of events, I ended up living here, and this has been my home since 2004. So, but yeah, their defense can't stop anybody. And he looked pretty good. And I think they're starting to let him run the ball. Look at, I mean, Jacksonville's a mess. Urban Meyer's a clown. I questioned the coaching assignment when they gave it to him in the first place. And at this point, I feel like we're all just waiting for him to be fired. And I think it would probably be the smartest thing that Jacksonville did. Maybe I don't give Tony Khan a call and tell him I'm available. Can't be worse. Certainly can't be worse. But yeah, quarterback, he's definitely a guy that I would be looking to play today. And in fact, I'm playing him in a bunch of places.
Right on. Yeah, I'm a big Trevor guy this week as well, especially in DFS formats. I think he's going to have a big game, like you said. Moving on with that, is there a guy that you drafted high this year, and if he doesn't produce this week, that you're pretty much cutting bait on? A guy, just for example, a guy like that for me this week is Brandon Ayuk. If Brandon Ayuk just doesn't show up again, I think I'm ready to just let him go, even though knowing the talent that he has and the ability that's there for him. I mean, last year he was huge. This year he's just been non-existent for me. If he throws up another semi-goose egg, close to a goose egg, I'm cutting bait. Is there a guy like that you're ready to just give up on?
Yeah, I'm in the Ayuk boat with you, man. In a lot of places, he's the guy that I picked up all over the place. I feel like, just because of the draft capital that you spent on him, it's so hard to let a player like that go.
Yep.
You know what he can do. You saw it last year. You know that he's a good player. You know that this system creates opportunities for all of the skilled players, and the wide receivers is no different. Samuel is, I think, the one there right now. I feel like that could change, but I'll say Shanahan is a guy. Dante Pettis was a guy that I loved coming out of college, and watching tape on him and think like, this guy's going to be a stud. This guy's going to be a number one real deal wide receiver in the NFL. And I don't even know if he's on a team. I think he was with the Giants. He may still be there. But Shanahan will hold a grudge, apparently, especially when it comes to wide receivers. I don't know what's going on there. It doesn't make a ton of sense. But I'm with you. I'm not starting him if I own him. at all.
Absolutely.
And if he doesn't do it this week, I feel like you said it probably is time to cut bait. For me, as far as cutting bait, I would agree with the Ayuk thing, but a guy that this week, I think he's been, the volume has been there. I don't think the touchdowns and stuff and the fantasy points have been there. But a guy that I'm avoiding, that I've been playing almost every week, is Michael Pittman. The Ravens are brutal against number one wide receivers. Carson Wentz, I think he's getting better, but he, still got two bum ankles and hasn't been a great quarterback in a couple years. So that's a guy that I feel like if you're looking at, volume and you're looking at box scores and stuff like that, that you're probably just starting Pittman and not thinking about it. I would advise that you think about it. And if you have somebody else, I mean, almost anybody else, I'd start somebody else. The Ravens have been really, really difficult against number one wide receivers all year.
Yep, I agree. Stefan, do you have a question for Eric Young here, buddy?
I have a question. Yes. Do you believe, and the game's still going on, I've asked everyone around the world this. What do you make of this Cordero Patterson hype? Are you on that train? Are you selling high? Are you saying no, that he's going to be the one I need for RB2 a flex every week going forward? I want to know what your opinion on that one is.
For me, and I feel like we are all in this. Is I'm a complete psycho when it comes to this stuff. So like during the week, I'm watching Game Pass. I'm watching all the games in the condensed versions. And the reality is there's not a ton of volume, but they are game planning to get the ball in his hands. And since he came out of college, all you heard about was this guy's one-on-one ability, his athletic prowess, his ability to make people miss, his ability to do things with the ball in his hands in an open field. And we've seen that as a punt returner. He's been very effective as a punt returner most of his NFL career. And I feel Arthur Smith, I don't know if it's the dreads or the fact that he's kind of tall. Maybe he thinks he's Derrick Henry, but the volume is not Derrick Henry. I think Davis is even, he's carrying the ball more and touching the ball more. But the reality is they are game planning and scheming in ways to get the ball in Cordero Patterson's hand. And you saw it already in this game. I mean, he hasn't carried it as much as Mike Davis, but every time he catches it, there's a threat for him to do something big with it. I'm not trading a player like that away. They don't grow on trees. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's somebody in your league and you could get some crazy, you could, because of Cup's down week last week, maybe you could get Cup or, somebody like that. But I mean, he just keeps producing. They're planning to put the ball in his hands. And players like that, I tend to hold on to. I'm terrified of trading. I've never been good at it. And every time I do it, like the player that I trade away ends up going off and I end up losing the deal. So a lot of times, and a lot of it is I was born stubborn. My mom and dad are both stubborn. I'm a stubborn person. And I do so much work like you guys do in the off season, deciding who's going to be good and guessing and looking and thinking about it tirelessly. And it'll take me a while to go away from that, to be honest.
Okay, I see it. I like the confidence that people are having in Cordero Patterson. Listen, I've asked everybody. They're just like, oh, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't work. It's 2021, and you know what? This man is making it work. So I got to hold on to him.
I'm holding on to him unless you can do something crazy.
Right. No, I agree. And I love the take as well.
Yeah, the opportunity share is definitely there with them, especially today with Ridley out, Gage out. He's already put up 91 all-purpose yards today alone with 4 catches, so he's definitely a big part of the game plan. We are uSTADIUM, uFantasy Live. We are here with Eric Young, our first ever uSTADIUM Fantasy Live guest, popping our guest cherry. We want to thank you for coming on again. But is there a guy? So you're not big into trading so much. You get a little nervous of the guy that you trade going off. I've had some luck this year and last year of trading guys, and then they go on to get injured. So if you need any help with who you should trade, by all means, reach out. Hopefully my luck can kind of rub off on you. This week there's some big games. Is there a game that you're looking forward to the most in terms of fantasy output?
I mean, for me, the Buffalo, Kansas City. You mean like that's a fantasy wet dream, built into itself. Two of the best quarterbacks in the league, two of the best offenses. Buffalo's defense, I want to say, is ranked number one for sure in the top three this year. Kansas City, we know what Kansas City is. They're one of the best offenses. I don't know if Gordon's going to play. I don't know if that's come out and said it yet. I'm interested to see what happens there. Hardman and Pringle and all these other guys don't seem to be able to get it done. So, giving it a chance of somebody else. All the reports are like he looks like a god, like he always does. Someone, I was reading a report yesterday. He was doing wind sprints at practice, and they said he looks to be just as fast, or perhaps faster than he was when he played a couple of years ago. So that's interesting, man. I mean, for me as a crazy fantasy psycho, that's the game. But there's a ton this week. I mean, this might be one of the strongest scheduling dates the NFL has had in the last 5 years. There are so many good games, man. So many.
Yeah, just a heads up. I just got a message come across my screen here. Dalvin Cook is inactive today. So if anyone is starting Dalvin Cook, just heads up, head to your lineups while you can. Take him out, inject Madison. Hopefully you have Madison as a Cook owner.
Yes, I do.
So just a heads up with that. A game that I'm looking forward to this week is 49ers versus Arizona. Like Arizona, like you said, has been a fantasy wet dream for owners, especially Kyler Murray. Nuke hasn't really been the Nuke of yesteryear, but he's still got his production. He still sees his targets. And then we get to see Trey Lance get his first actual start with Jimmy G out. So that's a game that I'm really looking forward to, along with the Buffalo KC. We all know what both those teams are capable of. Do you play any DFS there, Eric?
Yeah, I play a little bit. I mean, I kind of do everything in the football and hockey space. I'm not a crazy person when it comes to that. I kind of like the long-term strategy of season long. That's what I prefer. I always have. I always will. But as you guys know, being part of this industry in any way, shape, or form, that's the way it's going, man. It started with DFS, and now it's props and sports betting. It's exploded. It is everywhere. It's a multi-billion-dollar business, and I think we'd be stupid to not want to have part of that. So yeah, it's I'm definitely something that I partake in. I play a few lineups every week. I play mostly 50-50s. Every now and then I'll get I'll have one of those gut feelings and I'll play on one of the big tournaments or something like that. But I prefer 50-50s because I don't like losing money here.
Yeah, that's the same sentiment that I share. Is there a DFS guy that like a value player that you guys will be able to find a little cheaper that you kind of put into your lineups to hope that he has, or you see him having a big boom week?
Let me. I'm pulling up my my lineup this week. I said a couple.
J.D. McKissick.
For me, a guy that's down, and this goes the opposite way of what I was saying earlier with Trevor Lawrence, but getting AJ Brown back, I think Tannehill on DraftKings, he's 6,400. I feel that's a steal. Look at the Titans' defense is bad. Jacksonville is just as bad or perhaps worse. So the two quarterbacks there, I think, are going to be going back and forth. Obviously, Henry's going to be the focal point of the offense, but I think Tannehill getting A.J. Brown, he's going to want to get him involved. And Tannehill, has been pretty maligned for most of the season, but I think this is going to be a big game. And I mostly think that because I think Trevor Lawrence is going to explode today and is going to force Tannehill to throw the ball. So DFS, sign me up for Ryan Tannehill for sure.
I like it. I like the take on there. Again, I apologize for my video right before you came on. It decided to crap out on me. But before we let you go, I gotta ask, since it's right around the corner, is there a fantasy hockey sleeper that I should be looking to draft in my hockey drafts?
Oh, geez, sleeper. Let me think. I mean, a thing that you want to do, goaltending is so important in fantasy hockey. I liken it similar to the quarterback position. If you don't have good goaltending and constant goaltending, it's really hard whether you have guys that are scoring or not. So goaltending is foundational. And I always found, I started doing this 2 or 3 years ago, and I found really good success with it, is try to get goaltenders that are on good defensive teams, like the Islanders, the New York Islanders. I tried to get both Varlamov and Sorokin. That's the starter and the backup. They split a lot of time last year, and in the Barry Trotz system, they don't give up a ton of shots. They don't get up a ton of high danger chances, and both goalies produce with Trotz and Mitch Korn, the goalie whisperer, as they call him. That's a great way to start. So try to pinpoint teams that you think will be good defensively, and you got to watch categories too, like what scoring your goalies are getting. If shots is a category, you don't want a team like the Islanders because they don't give up a ton of shots. If you have a shots category, someone like Mackenzie Blackwood on New Jersey or something like that, like he's going to see a ton of rubber. He was pretty good last year. That team was absolutely abysmal, and they made a lot of moves. I think they're going to be much improved this year. So yeah, that's a bit of a tip more than a player.
I like it. I like it.
Watch for Philip Forsberg at Nashville. I know I'm a Nashville guy, but this is a contract year for him. And don't ever fool yourself. The narrative is players are motivated when they can make millions of dollars. And I don't give a shit what you say. I don't know if we're allowed to swear.
You're good.
They're all human. They're all human beings, and he's in a contract year, and he wants this to be his best statistical year to date. And he's going to do everything in his power to make that happen. He's going to shoot maybe when he shouldn't. He's going to play harder. He's more motivated than he ever is. And if you don't think that, then you don't really pay attention to sports. This is what happens in all professional sports. Contract years often breed that player's best statistical year. And then the counter of that is once they get paid, there's often a huge fall off because they're relaxed. So
a la Devontae Parker.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right, Eric. Thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate your presence. Let the fans know where they can find you with FTN Fantasy and your Twitter handles. Let them know what you got going on before you take off, brother.
Yeah, I'm on the Eric Young on Twitter, the Eric Young IG on Instagram, FTN.com. There's 600 pages with FTN bets, FTN hockey, FTN football. I'm going to be all over the place. I'll be mostly prominently doing hockey, but I will be a bit of a rover, I think, showing up all over the place on football shows there. Super pumped to be part of that group and that family. They are killing it, and it's all of the hot young talent and me. And I'm over there too. It's a really cool place. I love the idea of it. I love the structure of it. I love how passionate it is that everyone that works there. If you message me on social media, don't be offended if I don't answer. I have a life, obviously, and I'm on my couch. I'm very busy watching football or hockey. But yeah, don't take it personally. I just missed it. It's the curse of having a bunch of followers. I think I have over 600,000 total across all 3 platforms. So it's very difficult to see everything and respond to everything because I'm not a great big fan of social media. Although it is an amazing tool. That's how we met. That's how I met a ton of people in the fantasy world. So it is a cool tool, but sometimes I just got to put the phone down, boys.
Yeah, I respect that.
I hear that. Thanks for joining, Eric.
Thank you, Eric. Have a great day.
All right. Yeah, have a good Sunday, boys. Good luck.
You too.
You too.
Right on, man. That was awesome, eh, Steph?
I love that. I love great insight. I love his knowledge on that. It's always good to have that extra oomph to the show.
Yeah, exactly. And the little hockey, I had to fit that in there, man. As a Canadian player on the corner, I'm big into a little bit of hockey fantasy as well.
I do basketball, so.
Going. Oh yeah, that's right around the corner too, man. So big things coming. Again, you can get to Eric at the Eric Young on Twitter. You can reach him at the FTN Fantasy, like he said, FTNfantasy.com and at FTN Fantasy on Twitter. You can go there. You can access everything they got going on. So yeah, thanks again, Eric, for coming on. The insight was amazing. And we look forward to getting you on again. Get him on again, man. He definitely knew what he was talking about. Another big out today. Some people thought he was in. There was reports that he was doubtful. Christian McCaffrey is out this week. So are we firing up Chuba Hubbard, even though he didn't have such a great game last week?
I'm a forgiving person. I really am. So I will forgive him for that. I'm going to give it 1 week. This is it. If people spent half their fab on you, give them 1 week of where they don't feel bad about spending $50 odd.
That's it, man. I was fortunate in a dynasty. I was able to pick him up late in a rookie draft, and he sat on my taxi for a while. So with the McCaffrey injury, being able to inject him into my lineup has been good. Let's move forward with the rest of our starts and sits, buddy. Our next couple sits here. I am sitting Odell Beckham Jr., wide receiver from the Cleveland Browns. Last week I told you to start him. This week I'm telling you to sit him. He's playing the Los Angeles Chargers. Wide receivers individually haven't really been able to put up a good fantasy day versus the Chargers defense. They've only allowed 3 TDs to the position through the first 4 weeks. The main concern for me isn't the fact that OBJ has been seeing a great target share. He's seen his share, but it's been the play of Baker since the labrum injury he suffered in early September. He's been wearing a shoulder harness since, and according to ESPN stats info, before the injury, he was second best in the league in off-target rate at 8%. After the injury, he is 32nd in the league at 32%. That mixed with the play of the Chargers defense is the reason why I'm sitting OBJ this week. Wide receivers that I'm starting over OBJ, Tyler Boyd, and unfortunately, Eric Young said to kind of sit him this week, but I think I'm okay starting Michael Pittman over OBJ this week.
I would say I like it. There's no reason for him not to, get the receptions and points. OBJ, I'm on top of you. I don't know, man. He's been dealing with his injury for 10 years, he said. It's sad to see a great player that's good in the league just to be like, So this week, maybe he gets it back together, but I don't know, OBJ. You got to start doing something, man.
Yeah. Maybe he's got to play football on a treadmill or something. I don't know what it is with that guy. Or he's got to get traded. Maybe just Cleveland's not the place for him. It's either the
I didn't like it when he first got there. Yeah.
But let's move forward with one of your sits, Steph and Buddy. Who are you sitting? Another one of yours this week, Kyle.
So one of my biggest sits, and I'm never a fan of him because I'm not a big Eagles fan, but it's Miles Sanders. I don't know. I don't know what's going on in that team. Me and my friend always talk about, hey, what's the Eagles this, that. He saw 28 carries for the first 2 weeks, and then he saw 9 the last 2 weeks and only 40 total yards. I don't know what they're doing. Kenneth Gainwell seems to be taking the momentum. He's taking not really the carries, but more of the reception. He's the DeMarco Murray, the guy that they don't know what they're doing with, the guy that they can't trust, but he's got the age. He's still young. He hasn't had that many miles on him, no pun intended. But I don't know. Do we hold him to the end of the season and he goes off after his week 14 bye week, and then we're like, oh, this is Miles Sanders going to next year, and then we do this all over again. Yeah, it seems every year we're like, Miles Sanders last 4 games, RB3, RB2. Miles Sanders the first 16 games, nowhere to be found. So
yeah, and Kenny Gainwell's been nipping at his heels too. I mean, he's had some production. So I seen you picked him up. I'm playing you actually in our uSTADIUM league this week, and I saw you go off and pick up a bunch of RBs. You picked up Gainwell. You picked up some other guys.
It's that
unfortunately,
mixing,
I think it's another loss for you this week, buddy.
I hope not. I cannot. I have to do something.
The guy at the beginning of the season that always says, I'm gonna win this league, is the guy that never ends up.
You're gonna hold me to that. And I knew that when I said that. I'm like, this guy's gonna hold me to it. Oh yeah, right, you're projected. Okay, you know what? Yeah. No, I'm gonna come back with this win.
I like it. Let's move forward. We got a couple more start sits. Then we're gonna get into our bold starts and our sleeper starts and our bold sits for you guys. A start for me in the wide receiver room for the Chicago Bears is none other than Darnell Mooney, with the announcement that finally that Justin Fields is going to be the starter for the Bears moving forward, a player that is going to have one of the greater impacts because of that move on this season is Darnell Mooney. Last week, he saw his best fantasy output, dropping 125 yards on the Detroit Lions. Yes, it was the Detroit Lions. Even though he saw his lowest snap share, he did see his best fantasy output. With Damian Williams, he was a little hurting. He was limited. He's going to get some carries. And Montgomery out for a couple weeks. The game plan for the Bears might be able to air out the ball a little bit more, favoring a player like Mooney. I mean, A-Rob's been utter disappointment for fantasy owners this year based on where you drafted him. I mean, he's been putting up duds left, right, and center. My week 5 projection for Darnell Mooney, 5 receptions, 60 yards, and a touchdown. Good enough for about 14 and a half, 15 fantasy points, a guy that you're going to want to plug into your flex. So you're going to talk about a guy here. There's been a lot of talk before season. He's been decent throughout the season, but this week, week 5, you're putting him into your lineup, Stefan. And that guy is Leonard Fournette, my man.
Yes.
Tell us why you're putting Leonard Fournette into the starting role on your roster.
Honestly, 2 reasons why. First reason, Giovanni Bernard is a pass catching back. If they're down by 30, he'll come in, but I don't see him doing much. Second is Rojo. He just doesn't seem to be the same Rojo. I don't know what happened. I think he has like a confidence shot down. I don't know if it's just he forgot how to play football, but Fournette looks like he's taking that backfield. It looks like he knows what he's doing finally, and Brady keeps giving him the rock. He keeps throwing him the ball like he's Cordero Patterson or someone like someone that can catch it. And it does frustrate me, but like volume speaks. He had 18 carries. He had a good run game against the Patriots last week. He's been consistent. He's getting the workload. I think this is the week against a somewhat, I don't want to call them a good D-line for Miami, but a better offensive line for the Bucs. I think this is the game they established a run game. I think he gets 20 carries. I think 80 yards, and I'm going to go 0.6, 0.7. He could get a rushing touchdown. I would say it, but I'm not too confident in that. I do think he has at least 18 to 20 carries, 80 to 100 yards, and I'm banking on a touchdown. But he's someone I want to start. It's just it doesn't go out there, and you can't find someone else better that puts up at least decent numbers because this world of running backs is all hurt. So put Leonard Fournette in. Have fun with him. Let it ride. That's all I would always say. Let it ride.
Let it ride. I like it. I like the sentiment there. I like the start of Leonard Fournette this week. Let's move on here. Our last couple sits for the week. I'm sitting Tyler Heinicke versus the New Orleans Saints. He was my sleeper start last week, and he had a good week. But this week, he should be a guy that you shouldn't think about streaming. He shouldn't be put into your lineup. If you have another option in 2 QBs or super flex leagues, I would suggest sitting Tyler Heinicke. The Saints haven't been a great matchup for the quarterbacks. They've only thrown 5 touchdowns to 7 picks. We witnessed what they could do when they held Aaron Rodgers to 2 fantasy points in week 1. Darnold and Daniel Jones did have some success, but Diami Brown is hurt. Logan Thomas is out. Curtis Samuel did not practice all week. He is active. I don't know how much he's going to be involved. And Antonio Gibson, again, is suffering a fracture in his shin. It's not looking good for the football team in week 5 versus the Saints. Sit Taylor Heinicke. Today, Taylor Heinicke can't. 220, a TD, and an interception is my week 5 projection for the guy. I just don't see him having a decent day fantasy-wise. Now, when we talk about your sit here, there's 2 running backs in this backfield that have been absolutely splitting time right down the middle. Teddy Bridgewater's playing, so fortunately for both these guys, Drew Lock is on the bench. But this week you're telling us to sit Melvin Gordon. Why should we sit Melvin Gordon? I mean, he hasn't really been a start any week, but he has been the better fantasy producer out of the 2. But why are we sitting Melvin Gordon this week, Steph?
So I read some. It's not like it's a clear cut thing. I just see the production going towards more of a Javonte Williams. Melvin Gordon had 11 carries for week 1, 101 yards and a touchdown. It just seems like if he doesn't get that one big run touchdown, that 30-yard touchdown, it's kind of like a done day, except for week 1. So you look at week 3 against the Jets, he had that touchdown. If he doesn't get that touchdown, it's a 10-point game, and he goes 10-10, basically 3 10-point games in a row. And then you look at Javonte Williams, who's got 14 carries week 1, 13 carries week 2, 12 carries week 3, 7 carries against the Baltimore Ravens. That was kind of a wash game because they both had 7 carries, 9 carries. So kind of 50-50 on that thing. I really just don't see Melvin Gordon being that guy anymore. Every week, I get closer and closer to starting Williams. I'm okay with doing it this week. I think it's a favorable matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers aren't really that team that is going to come out there and stop you pass-wise, but like the run game, I think, could be really good for them to spring out that defense, open them up. And Javonte Williams, I think, this week going forward is going to start taking the reins even more and more. Melvin Gordon's going to start to become a guy that you can't even flex. You just leave on your bench hoping Javonte Williams gets hurt, even though it's the other way around as well. Yeah. So start Javonte Williams. I did see a question on there. So Javonte Williams, I feel like it's going to be this is the week. I think this is the week he finally breaks out.
I like it. I like it, man. I was big on Javonte coming into the season. I'm still big on him. Hopefully you're right. But
me too.
Yeah. So sit Mel G, man. Sit Mel G. All right, let's get into our bold sits. Last week they did okay. My bold sit last week was Saquon Barkley. It was looking great for me until it wasn't. I think you jinxed it, Steph, when you put in a chat that he was doing bum work. He was no good. He was no good in the running game. But like I said, if he gets involved in the passing game, it could all come crashing down for me. I think by the end of the first half, he had 3.9 fantasy points. And then by the end of the game, he ended up with over 20. But again, the passing game was where he burned me. And the same reason why I told people to kind of suggest sitting Saquon last week is the same reason why I'm telling people to sit Antonio Gibson this week. It's not that bold of a sit anymore considering his injury, but based on where you drafted the guy, he's not a guy that you want to put on your bench. He's averaging 2.5 targets per game. So the opportunity for success versus a defense that has been great versus the run is why I'm sitting Antonio Gibson. He should be contemplated be taken out of your lineup. Again, running backs that don't catch the ball much, don't have much success against New Orleans. And that with the injury, I could see Antonio Gibson having a bad day. So with that, Steph, who is your bold sit this week, buddy?
I'm going to get some heat for it, but it goes back to our take you had earlier. Brandon Cooks. It's not a knock on Brandon Cooks. These aren't like these sits aren't really much like, oh, Cooks is washed. It's more like a Davis Mills is not going to produce against a Bill Belichick defense, especially coming off a loss. His history speaks, and there are not that many quarterbacks that beat Bill Belichick in their rookie year. There are very few, and Davis Mills will not be the one because I believe they will shut him down. And Cooks, just because of the lack of their offensive willpower, could be having one of his bad games. It's just maybe next week they do better, but not this week, not against a Belichick defense. Cooks is still a guy I'd start receiver 2 going forward. Just have him sit down this week, have him take a little time off. No need to stress you out in your lineup and give you some gray hairs that you shouldn't be having because you started him. If you have to start him, like my motto is, I hope he gets you 10 points. If you don't have to, you find someone better, go find someone else in a better matchup.
I like it. I like the take. I don't think anyone in Houston's going to have a good game today at all. It's going to just be one of those games. A sleeper start for me this week is KALIF Raymond. Raymond has been a bright spot over the past couple of weeks in that Lions offense. Last week, Stefan and I called that he should be plugged into your DFS lineups as the only trustworthy player for the Cardiac Cats. And what did he do? He produced. He put up 2 TDs. He saw double-digit targets versus Baltimore, six targets, 2 TDs versus Chicago, and now he's playing a Vikings defense who, out of the 4 games played, have allowed multiple wide receivers to go off for double-digit points. Lions are top 15 in passing yards and 6th in the league in passing attempts. Raymond is a sneaky start and should be considered for your DFS lineups. He's been involved in the passing game over the past couple weeks more than TJ Hawkinson. They're looking for him in the passing game. He's stretching the field as well. He is a bright spot in that Lions wide receiver room.
Also, Hawkinson is questionable. He's hurt, so I don't know if he's going to be able to play. So if KALIF Raymond could be the only pass catcher on that team outside the running backs.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. All right, Steph, we're almost wrapped up here, buddy. Give us your sleeper start, a guy that the people listening should be putting into their lineups this week, pal.
All right, I'm just gonna make this cool, cut and sweet. JAKOBI Meyers, 112 receptions in this league without a touchdown. He's the longest active drought. I think this is it. He had 26 targets and he had 17 catches the last 2 weeks. He's been the receiver 2 you want to plug in. This will be the week he breaks out and will break that touchdown record or touchdown drought. I think he has 7 to 8 catches. I think he has 100 yards, and I'm going to give him a touchdown at least. I think this is his come out, breakout. Like, this is the guy you want to do well. I hate seeing a guy that can't catch a touchdown. This is the guy. Start him, receiver 2, lock it in. This is the one I think. Just like Cordero Patterson last week, this is my Cordero Patterson for this week.
I like it, man. With the Ridley injury, JAKOBI Meyers is a guy that I had to bring up and put in my lineup. So seeing him that he's a guy that you picked as your sleeper start, you know, I'm liking my decision here, buddy. I'm liking my decision. Let's take some questions. Luke Winster, thanks for joining us. Chase Edmonds or Jalen Waddle, full PPR here. I think I'm gonna have to go Chase Edmonds over Waddle.
I'm gonna counter you just because of lack of targets. I think Waddle will be the one in Miami because they have no offensive weapons and they're going against one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL right now.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
That's the only reason. Otherwise, I would go Edmonds because I love running backs more than I love receivers, to be honest, in fantasy.
Especially pass catching running backs.
Exactly.
In full PPR formats. But yeah, yep. Start 2 PPR, Brandin Cooks, which is a no for us. Damian Williams, Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, JAKOBI Meyers, or Antonio Gibson. I'll let you pick one, and then I'll pick one.
I know a lot of better names on there. My guy was JAKOBI Meyers. I think the first guy would be Meyers would be my one guy. He is my sleeper start of the week. So get Meyers in there at least.
Yeah, Meyers. I think I'm gonna go with Chris Godwin out of the rest. I don't like the injury stuff I've been hearing about Amari Cooper and Antonio Gibson. Damian Williams could or couldn't have a big day. I know he's been dealing with an injury throughout the week, but he is a start of ours, so he's a guy that you should be considering. And then Brandin Cooks is a sit just based on the matchup.
Right.
Bozo Bob Ward 333 Texas A&M. What a big game that was yesterday, man. This guy.
Kudos to beating a Bama team.
Holy, but because of Gibson's injury, should I consider starting McKissick because of the less volume of Gibson? Also, at flex, should I start Latavius Murray, AJ Green, or JD McKissick in standard scoring? I would consider starting JD McKissick. If it's standard scoring, I kind of bring him down a little bit because he's not going to have the production that he would in a PPR format. So if I'm going to start one out of the 3, I'm liking AJ Green, man. They've been really looking for him in the passing game. He's caught a few TDs already. So out of the 3, I think I'm going AJ Green. I don't trust anything running the ball in Baltimore other than Lamar Jackson. So give me AJ Green in standard format.
I like it. I mean, yeah, you know what? I had him, and for some reason, I didn't start AJ Green in my receiver 2. I started Van Jefferson. But I think AJ Green is the guy. It's the offense looks like they're just going to lock down DeAndre Hopkins. If I had to make a list, it'd be AJ Green, McKissick. If that shin injury is more severe than we think and they're just downplaying it, I feel like McKissick could be just like in line for a big workload. Only because they're not telling us let's fool the other team with that game plan and go with it like that.
Yep. I like it. Charlie Zigman, AB, Devonta, or Cooks in PPR. So we're going to scrap Cooks. And we got Devonta Smith or Antonio Brown. I'm liking Antonio Brown over Devonta this week. As a Tampa Bay fan, you kind of got a little bit of bias with that. But do you share the same sentiment with me there?
I do in a way. I do like Devonta Smith. I just don't like the Carolina Panthers defense matchup.
Yeah,
Any other time I would say he does have 30 targets and 0 drops. So I will give him that.
that's big. Yep.
With Gronk being out again, I just see that three-headed monster and Evans, Godwin, and Antonio Brown having a good day again. I think Brady coming back from a game where he had no touchdowns. I think this is a game he throws at least 3 to 4. And I do see Antonio Brown being on the receiving end, if not 7 catches for 60 to 80 yards, give you a nice 15-point day. So I would start Devonta second, AB first.
Yep. And then Cooks just don't even bother.
Yeah.
Christian Colazzo, Jakobi Myers or Waddle for wide receiver 2 in a PPR flex.
Myers for the dub.
Yeah. I think we're both going Myers there. Thanks, Christian, for tuning in. Max Leonidas. Start Kareem Hunt or Allen Robinson in PPR. I think I'm okay sitting Allen Robinson until we see him finally produce based on where you drafted him. So we're going Kareem Hunt in PPR here, right?
Yeah. I had him last week as a bench player for AB. Until this week, until next week, still 1 week, he tells us, hey, I'm back. I don't want to start him. A-Rob's on my bench. Hunt is the guy.
Yep, especially at PPR. Yep. Mikey B, I'm not going to try to pronounce that one. I'm just going to butcher it, buddy. Wide receiver, pick 2, Terry McLaurin, A.J. Brown, or Keenan Allen. Ooh, you got to pick 2.
Can you start all 3 of them?
Yeah. I think I'm going A.J. Brown and Keenan Allen. The Saints' pass defense is legit. So I think A.J. Brown's going to have more opportunity as well as Keenan Allen. You agree?
I like the AJ Brown one. I think that's gonna be one of the most cake lineups for AJ Brown. I'm gonna actually go on the opposite side and go Scary Terry. Yeah, I do like Scary Terry. I do like what he brings to the table. I do like he's just been consistent, and I think with Samuel back another week, it's gonna be a nice day for Scary Terry fans. And he's got no drops either. I think he's got the longest active streak with no drops.
And he's the only target in that.
Exactly.
Passing game.
And with no Gibson. Fire up Scary Terry.
Yeah, I agree with that. Same guy, Mikey B. RB pick 2, Chubb, Swift, Robinson, or Damian Williams. I'm gonna go Chubb and Robinson here.
I do like. Let's see. I'm actually gonna go DeAndre Swift and James Robinson. I do like Chubb. That's just that Kareem Hunt thing, I think, just knocks him down a little bit. Swift and Robinson are going to be more of the pass catching guys. If it's PPR, Swift and Robinson.
Yeah, for me, it's just I think Cleveland versus the Chargers, their game plan is going to be to try to keep the Chargers offense off the field. Mm-hmm. So they're going to run the ball down the Chargers' throats, which is the game plan that I see. I mean, I could be totally wrong. The Chargers can go out and put up 21 points, and then that game plan gets completely thrown out.
Right.
So, but if I'm picking 2, for me it's Chubb and Robinson. For you, it's Swift and Robinson.
Yep.
Ethan, Kareem Hunt, Swift, and Jonathan Taylor. Which 2 should I start? Some good options here. You have an instant take on which 2 that Ethan should start here?
I think Swift and Jonathan Taylor purely off volume touches. Yeah. Kareem Hunt shares fit the backfield. I think Swift pass catching. He's the leading all running backs in pass catching out of the backfield. And Taylor, I think, has a lot of volume. So I think those would be the 2 ones you want to start.
Yep. Jonathan Taylor and DeAndre Swift. Thanks for the question, Ethan. C-Dog, Ravens or Titans defense? Now, the Titans are playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. So that is a plus matchup. But I think the Jacksonville Jaguars, if they get down, there's more opportunity for them to score garbage time points, which could ultimately sink your team defense. So for me, I'm liking the Ravens versus the Colts here. Carson Wentz, 2 bum feet. I mean, he's almost guaranteed to throw an interception to make a bad play. Like Eric said, their passing defense has been great this year. So I'm picking the Ravens over the Titans defense. I mean, the Titans defense all year has been atrocious anyway. So give me Baltimore.
I'm on top of that with you.
Jackson Pugh, 2 questions. If Cook is out, which he is, Do I start Mixon and D. Williams, or do I pick up Madison next?
Pick up Madison right now,
Yeah,
like right now.
If he's available, pick him up and put him in with D. Williams.
Yes.
We don't see Joe Mixon having a great day this week. Next, Schultz or T.J. Hawkinson at tight end.
Schultz, Hawkinson's dealing with some injury. It seems like it's gone all the way to game day. When you see an injury go to game day, you know it's more severe than like precautionary, you know?
Yep. And Schultz has had a great connection with Dak the past 2 games. So give us Schultz today. Giuseppe Russo, flex, half PPR, Myers, Beasley, or Miles Sanders. I think we're both agreeing here that we're starting Jakobi
Myers for the dub.
For the dub. I like it. Trey S. We're only going to assume that it's Trey Sermon. Morning, gents. A couple questions. Full PPR. Choose 2. Galladay, Boyd, Allen Robinson, or James Conner. Also, Carr, Tannehill, or Lance. Thank you, Trey. Full PPR out of the receivers. I'm going Galladay and Boyd over James Conner. I mean, James Conner could absolutely see a great day, but full PPR, I think I'm going Galladay and Boyd, especially with Slayton and Shepard out. He should see, again, another decent day. And then for the quarterback, man, as much as I want to say Ryan Tannehill versus the Jags, I got to say Trey Lance, man. For me, I want to say Trey. Do you agree with those?
Yeah, yep. I took the words out of my mouth. Like I said, we don't like Allen Robinson. James Conner is still in a timeshare. The ones that you know, and Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton are out. Yeah, so you know what?
They both help.
Higgins is back for the Cincinnati defense, but Jair Alexander is also out for the Packers defense. So, hey, it's going to be a shootout in Cincy or in Green Bay, wherever they're at. So, get Galladay, get Boyd, and get Trey Lance. That could be a high-scoring lineup with those 3 in there.
Yep, I agree. Christian Colazzo, again, Aaron Rodgers and Daniel Jones damn near have identical projected points today, both on the road. Who would you start? I mean, Daniel Jones, man. I've been eyeing Daniel Jones coming into the season. My nickname for him is the La Ferrari. I've been chirped about it. People have called him a Pinto or a station wagon, but I'm going to stand by my claim. The fact that he can run the ball pretty effectively at that is why, to me, he is valuable in the fantasy football domain. NFL-wise, I probably wouldn't build a team around Daniel Jones, but fantasy-wise, I like him. If I had to start one of the 2, I'm going with the talent again, and the hope or the aspect that Green Bay and Cincy can be a shootout. Give me Aaron Rodgers.
A-Rod all the way. You don't bet against that man. Daniel has been good. If you need a streamer, like if someone else wants to trade him someone else that has to have a quarterback, I'm starting Aaron Rodgers. He's one of those guys that's matchup proof. Even after that week 1 thing, I don't think he's ever going to have a game that was like that week 1 matchup. Fire up Rodgers over Jones, and you'll love us for it because Jones he's been good. Yeah, I just feel like LaFerrari might have to make an oil change soon. So.
That's it, eh? That's it. I mean, he needed OT to get those points last week, but that's near here or there.
Gotcha.
James Zhou or Zoo, Cook or Edmonds. I mean, this is an easy one. Cook is out, so start Edmonds.
There you go.
Noah Schreiner, pick 2. Kareem Hunt, Antonio Gibson, Chase Edmonds, or Chuba Hubbard, full PPR. I'm good with going Kareem Hunt and Chuba Hubbard here.
Same. PPR-wise, I'm always in favor of backs over receivers just because the rushing touches and the receptions. So Chuba and Kareem Hunt all day.
Yep. Thanks for tuning in. Zach Pauling, Higgins or Gibson? Give me T. Higgins here. Like you said, Jair Alexander is out, and Gibson is suffering with a fractured shin. So give me T. Higgins.
And Higgins is coming off he did have a shoulder injury 2 weeks ago, but that's why they held him out for as long as they did. He's fully back. They expected him to be back, so he's not going to be like, hampered by the injury. Higgins all the way against whoever they're starting at cornerback on that Packers team.
Xavier Miranda, Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, or Emmanuel Sanders. out of the three, I think just based on the outlook of Bills and Chiefs and the shootout that everyone is expecting it to be, give me Emmanuel Sanders first, Darnell Mooney second, and Allen Robinson third.
Bang. Book it.
Yeah, I like it. Mentality. Start Damien Williams or Mixon this week. I think we're both agree, right?
Damien Williams,
Damien
Mixon.
Williams.
Listen, I told in the beginning of the show for you guys, I just came in earlier. Mixon is gonna play, but don't trust it. If I'll rather take the L and he goes off 15 points. You guys said I told you so, but don't have that heartache. It's gonna be a committee backfield. It's gonna be Mixon maybe playing 2-3 snaps, but he's still kind of injured. They want to, I guess, game plan to have him so the other team knows. But start Damien Williams the next 5 weeks. I keep preaching that.
Yep, I like it. Thanks for joining in. Team out of nowhere. PPR. I need to flex two. Henry Ruggs, Joe Mixon, who we're not high on this week, Noah Fant, Juju Smith-Schuster, who is another start for us, and Marcus Callaway. I think with the fact that Teddy Bridgewater is starting, I'm going to pick Noah Fant here. And then I'm going to go Henry Ruggs because I don't trust the production of Marquez Callaway. Juju's one of our sits as well. We're not too big on Joe Mixon this week. So I think if I'm going to pick two out of here, give me Henry Ruggs and Noah Fant.
I've never flexed a tight end, but with this situation, I'm okay with Henry Ruggs and Noah Fant. I'll never do it. Maybe next week don't do it because you have Joe Mixon fully back. But this week, be okay with Henry Ruggs and Fant as a flex.
Yep, I like it. George Lou, pick two. Damian Harris, Chase Edmonds, Gibson, or CEH. CEH has just put up 2 back-to-back 100-yard games. So I'm going to go Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Damian Harris out of the two.
I like that. I'm going to Damian let's pick two. CEH and Damian Harris. I think they had -1 rushing yards last week against the Buccaneers. I think Belichick reestablishes the run game.
Yeah.
And I would go personally Harris first and CEH second, only because that Buffalo defense is a stout defense. So it's going to be tough for him to run. And against the Texans, start anybody you want, like we said.
Yeah. The only thing for me with starting Harris is that the possibility for the Patriots to be up early, and then that's going to trickle down to
the committee backfield
for the running backs.
Yeah.
CEH
Caution.
and Damian Harris. Yeah. Thanks, George. It's Fowler, pick two. Thielen, Deontay, Cooks, or Godwin. I'm going to go Deontay and Thielen here. Cooks is a sit for us, and Godwin could end up having a big day, but I think I like the volume that I'm seeing out of Thielen and Deontay.
I like Deontay. And I think Chris Godwin this week over Thielen, only because I feel like Madison's gonna get a bunch of touches. Jefferson, Conklin's not also a bad replacement as well for a tight end. I just feel like it's going to be a Deontay Johnson / Chris Godwin kind of a day. So receiver one is Deontay all day. If anywhere you have him, please start him because you'll love him for doing it. And then Chris Godwin, I think, goes back to his reform self, good PPR machine.
Also, do I start Goddard or Tanyan in Kittle's replacement? I mean, I don't know about you, man. I drafted a lot of Tanyan coming into the year. I was expecting not the same output. He was due for a regression, but I think out of the two, I'm going to go Dallas Goedert just based on the usage of the tight ends in the Philadelphia passing game.
I like Goddard. I wasn't able to snag a tight end in one of my leagues, and when I saw him on waivers, I doubled down $8 on him in Fab. I'm like, I have to have him. I think he is the better of the two in that Philadelphia offense. They are slumping a little bit. They're not like the most prolific team right now. I do see Goddard coming back and having a few more games where he's just been that much better than Tanyan. Tanyan's the guy, but he's not the focal point of that offense. Like Goddard is one of those top 3 options. So,
yep. Caesar Rangel, PPR League, Kenny G, T. Higgins, or Alexander Madison now that Cook is out?
T. Higgins. Actually, no. Madison, Higgins, Kenny Golladay. That's my top 3.
Yeah, okay. I like that. Give me Madison, Higgins, and Kenny Golladay there. Yep, I like that. Also, should I take this trade in a different PPR league? I would give A.J. Brown and Herbert for McCaffrey. I have Aaron Jones, Jonathan Taylor, Leonard Fournette, and Lamar Jackson. See, I don't necessarily need Herbert. The McCaffrey injury, based on what he did last year with the injury, isn't very promising. But I don't. It's tough one because we can't see his wide receivers, right?
Right.
So,
how about you shoot us go on our app, send us a screenshot of what your team looks like, and then send us this question. And before 1 o'clock, one of us will answer back to you.
Great idea. I believe the app is actually in the description, so you can go download it there if you don't have it. So, Woody the Badger, Thielen or Jamar Chase at flex PPR?
Jamar Chase. He's been a beast in that defense on Packers secondary looking shambles.
Yep, give me Jamar, man. Noah Koffel, thanks for joining, Noah. Now that Dalvin Cook is out, start Javonte Williams, Trey Sermon, or Juju in a PPR flex spot. I could also stream Tim Patrick or Henry Ruggs. Is there a guy that you like over the other here? I know you're not big on Juju this week. Elijah Mitchell is back, so Trey Sermon, I don't know what his usage is going to be. So I think I'm going to go with Javonte Williams.
I think Javonte and Tim Patrick.
Yeah, exactly. Javonte, Tim Patrick.
Cortland Sutton did roll his ankle in practice, so that kind of might lead to like something. But I do think that Tim Patrick can have something good going.
Yep, I agree, man. If we didn't get to your questions, tag us on the app. Head over to the uSTADIUM app. Go find the Fantasy Football Stadium. You will get access to us there. Just a couple key outs for today. Rob Gronkowski, George Kittle, he's been put on the IR. Jimmy G, Darius Slayton, Julio Jones, Sterling Shepard, Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey's out. Is there any guys that I missed?
No, I think that's everyone.
I think that's out. I think that's pretty much it. You can get to us on Twitter at uSTADIUM Fantasy. You can also reach the main uSTADIUM account at uSTADIUM. Instagram is uSTADIUM. The uSTADIUM app, you can reach out to me at the uSTADIUM Fantasy. I want to thank our guest again, Eric Young, for dropping in and hitting us with some insight on both fantasy football and fantasy hockey. You can get at him on Twitter at the Eric Young, and you could reach the fantasy network that he's partnered with at FTN Fantasy on Twitter. Bursch, let them know where they can get at you, buddy.
uSTADIUM app, the Bearish. My Twitter handle is Bearish Bombs. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Go on the app, tag us, give us your screenshot of your lineup, whatever you want us to help you with. Send us it. We are available whenever. The app will give us a notification on Twitter as well. It's a Bearish Bombs on Twitter, the Bearish on uSTADIUM, and we are more than happy to answer any questions you guys have.
That's it. That's it for us.
All right, guys.
Sorry
have a good one
this week, Stephen, buddy.
Yeah, right.